The night shift was quiet at Earth's Deep Space Listening Post 47. Only the hum of machines and the soft tapping of keyboards filled the cold, metallic room. Lieutenant Samir Cho rubbed his eyes and leaned back in his chair. "Nothing again," he muttered, staring at the endless static waves on the monitor. 4 years, humans had listened to the stars. They had found echoes of old battles, the whispers of dying suns, and even the faint signatures of distant civilizations. But nothing like this night. At exactly 2:17 Universal Time Coordinated, the static changed. A strange pulse appeared on the screen. It wasn't random. It had rhythm, like a heartbeat. Samir sat up straight, his fingers flying across the console. The sound came again, faint but clear, buried under cosmic noise. "Command, this is Post 47. I'm receiving something. Not sure what yet," he said into the mic. The pulse grew louder, and then, through layers of interference, a voice broke through. Not human, not synthetic, but trembling and full of fear. "They're coming. They burn worlds. Please, help us." The words repeated, broken by static, fading in and out. Samir froze. The voice wasn't a message from Earth or any known colony. This was alien. Truly alien. Within minutes, the signal reached Earth Defense Command. In the orbital city of Arcadia, Captain Mira Hayes was called from her quarters. She was one of the most respected officers in the defense network. Sharp, calm, and known for her cold precision in battle. She stood before the holographic display, her eyes fixed on the pulsing waveform of the message. "Can we trace it?" she asked. "Negative, Captain," replied the technician. The signal bounced through at least a dozen gravity wells. "It's ancient, maybe sent years ago." The voice played again. Everyone in the room went silent. The words carried something deeper than fear, despair. "They burn planets, they eat light. Please, before it's too late." The message ended with a burst of coordinates. The screen flashed: origin, unknown; destination, Sol system. Mira frowned. "It's coming here." The technician looked pale. "Yes, ma'am. The signal's final transmission vector points straight at Earth." A heavy silence fell. Somewhere far out there, something was asking for help, or warning them. Mira turned to the comms officer. "Prepare a probe. I want those coordinates mapped." "Already on it, Captain." As the probe launched into the darkness, Mira watched it vanish on the holographic map. Her instincts told her this was not a random signal. Someone, or something, had chosen Earth. 3 days later, the probe sent back data. The coordinates led to a system near the edge of the Perseus Expanse, a region avoided by most spacefarers. The images showed ruins of cities on a shattered planet, blackened and torn apart by unknown weapons. The probe also found something else: fragments of ships, large and organic-looking, floating dead in orbit. When Mira saw the wreckage, her heart sank. "That's no asteroid damage," she said quietly. "That's war." Back on Earth, scientists analyzed the alien language. They called the senders the Varnak, a peaceful species known from old star charts, believed extinct. The message they sent wasn't just an SOS. Hidden inside were star maps and warning markers. The Varnak had marked dozens of destroyed systems, all leading toward Earth's region of space. Someone, or something, was following that path. That night, Mira stood alone in the observation dome, staring at the blue curve of Earth below. The stars beyond looked peaceful, but she knew peace was an illusion. Earth was called a death world for a reason, the most dangerous planet known for life to evolve. Its people were survivors of gravity, storms, and predators. Humanity had fought through extinction and risen to the stars. And now, it seemed, the stars were calling them again, not for conquest, but for survival. Her comm pinged. "Captain, you need to see this." Mira hurried to the control room. The main screen showed the signal again, but this time, it wasn't repeating the same words. The voice was different. Sharper. Closer. "They found us. We cannot stop them. They feed on life, on stars. The transmission cut off suddenly. Then, a new signal appeared, a high-frequency pulse from deep space. Source? Mira asked. The technician swallowed. The same coordinates, Captain. But, it's not a distress call this time. Mira narrowed her eyes. Then what is it? The answer came a second later. The pulse converted into a holographic map, showing a fleet. Dozens of massive signatures moving through space. Each one the size of a city. Each one heading directly toward the Sol system. The technician whispered, "They're coming here." Mira stared at the data, her voice cold and steady. "Send alert to all defense fleets. Prepare orbital defenses. If they're coming for Earth." She looked out the viewport, watching the pale light of dawn rising over the planet. Then they'll learn what Deathworlders really are. The probe's data kept streaming into Earth Defense Command. Captain Mira Hayes studied the holographic images again and again, trying to make sense of the damage. The Varnak's homeworld was gone, torn apart by weapons that no human had ever imagined. Cities reduced to molten ruins, skies blackened by firestorms, and oceans boiled into clouds of smoke. It was a massacre, and the survivors, if any, had fled into the unknown. Then came the unexpected movement. Sensors picked up a massive object emerging from behind the remnants of a moon. It was enormous, shaped unlike any human ship, but clearly controlled, moving with purpose. As it entered the system, it left trails of glowing energy, like a comet but alive. Mira felt her chest tighten. The Varnak were not gone entirely. They were inside that ship, fragile and desperate. The ship docked at a temporary orbital platform near Earth, and a delegation of scientists, engineers, and soldiers was sent to meet the aliens. Mira insisted on leading the contact personally. The airlock opened with a hiss, and the Varnak stepped out. They were tall, thin, and translucent, with eyes that glowed softly in shades of green and blue. Their voices were soft but urgent, filled with fear and exhaustion. "We have nowhere to hide," one of them said, her voice trembling. "The Korth Dominion follows us. They destroy everything in their path." Mira studied them carefully. Humans were no strangers to danger, but the stories of the Korth sounded like something from nightmares. Creatures that consumed planets, leaving nothing behind, moving with a precision that made humanity's most advanced fleets look slow and clumsy. Mira's mind raced. If the Korth were coming, Earth would be their next target. The Varnak explained how their species had once thrived in their part of the galaxy, building advanced cities and peaceful civilizations. Then the Korth had arrived, consuming their neighbors one by one. Whole star systems disappeared overnight. The Varnak fled, sending distress calls, hoping someone, anyone, could help. Now, they had finally reached the outer edge of human space. Mira listened carefully, trying to hide her unease. Earth's people had survived much worse than most alien species, but the Korth were different. They were not just enemies, they were annihilators. "We will protect your people," Mira promised. "But we need to know everything you can tell us about the Korth's methods, their weapons, and their weaknesses." Meanwhile, the orbital fleets were already mobilizing. Earth's massive warships, armed with the latest weapons and trained in the brutal tactics of Deathworlders, were heading toward the coordinates the Varnak had marked. Scientists worked day and night, decoding alien technology to adapt it for human use. Engineers modified fighter crafts to withstand energy discharges the Korth had used to destroy entire planets. Despite the preparations, tension grew. Mira walked along the observation deck, staring at the stars. The Varnak had shown her the path of destruction, the systems the Korth had already burned. Each one was a warning. Each glowing dot in the darkness represented millions of lives extinguished. Then the first attack came. Scouts of the Korth, smaller than the hive ships the Varnak had fled in, arrived without warning. They moved like shadows across the void, invisible until they struck. Earth's orbital colonies reported sudden explosions, satellites were vaporized, and communication blackouts spread like wildfire. The initial assault was brutal but not unstoppable. Earth's fleet struck back, firing with deadly precision. Myra's fleet moved swiftly, using guerrilla-style tactics that Deathworlders were known for. Ships dodged enormous energy blasts and counterattacked with missiles capable of vaporizing Korth scouts in seconds. The battles were terrifying, but humanity adapted quickly. The more the Korth attacked, the more they learned how to survive and fight back. In the chaos, the Varnak provided crucial intelligence. They identified weak points in the Korth ships, systems that humans could exploit. The alliance was uneasy but necessary. Humans and Varnak had no choice but to work together. Mira coordinated strikes, her mind sharp and relentless. She knew the Korth's precision meant mistakes could cost billions of lives. Every movement had to be calculated, every response immediate. After days of combat, the Korth pulled back slightly, leaving burned colonies in their wake. Mira watched the devastation from her flagship. Despite the horror, a strange pride filled her. Humanity had survived far worse. They were Deathworlders, survivors hardened by storms, gravity, and predators that had tried to wipe them out for centuries. They were not a race to be destroyed. Still, Mira knew this was only the beginning. The Korth were scouts, a vanguard of something much larger. The hive ships that the Varnak had spoken of were still out there, moving silently through the void, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when they came, Earth would need more than luck to survive. That night, Mira stood on the observation deck again, looking at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, the main force of the Korth Dominion was traveling toward them. She felt the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. Humanity had the skill, the strength, and the will to fight. But could even the Deathworlders survive what was coming? Her comm pinged. A new signal had appeared on the sensors. It wasn't a message or a distress call. It was a single, pulsing energy signature, moving fast and heading straight for Earth. Mira stared at the screen. She did not know what it was yet, but instinct told her it was a warning. "Prepare the fleet," she said, her voice steady. "Whatever it is, we will be ready." And in the silent darkness of space, the pulse grew closer, promising a confrontation that would decide the fate of two civilizations, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The first strike hit just after dawn. Alarms blared across Earth's orbital stations as Korth scouts emerged from the darkness of space. Their ships were strange, organic-looking, with jagged, pulsating hulls that seemed to breathe. The sensors barely picked them up before they unleashed energy beams that tore through satellites and orbital colonies. Panic flashed through the communications channels, but the human crews responded with trained precision. Captain Mira Hayes gripped the railing of her flagship, the Dauntless, watching as her fleet moved into formation. She had spent her life preparing for moments like this. The Korth may be terrifying, but humans were born on a death world. They were survivors, fighters, and killers when they had to be. "Red Squadron, take the left flank. Blue Squadron, follow me. Engage on my mark," she commanded, her voice calm but firm. Her orders moved through the fleet like a wave, and ships adjusted positions with mechanical precision. The Korth attacked with brutal accuracy. They seemed to anticipate every move, their beams slicing through the vacuum with deadly speed. Entire squadrons were vaporized within seconds, leaving only drifting wreckage. Myra's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to focus. Humans had a way of adapting under pressure. Every hit the Korth made revealed patterns. Every strike the fleet survived taught them something new. Using those patterns, Mira led a counterattack. Human ships swarmed around the Korth, dodging and weaving in complex maneuvers no other species could perform. Fighter crafts darted between larger vessels, firing missiles loaded with experimental warheads designed to pierce the Korth's organic armor. Explosions lit the void like fireworks, and the Korth scouts faltered, their precision slightly off. Humanity had found its rhythm. Amid the chaos, a message came through from the Varnak. "Captain, something is coming. Something larger." Mira frowned. "What do you mean?" Before the Varnak could respond, the sensors screamed. A massive shadow appeared on the edge of the system, a hive ship, bigger than any human or Varnak vessel, its hull stretching like a black mountain across space. It moved with terrifying intent, heading straight for the fleet. The smaller scouts seemed to scatter and retreat before it. Myra's heart pounded. This was what the Varnak had warned about. The hive ship was not just a vessel, it was alive. It pulsed with energy, almost as if it could think. And it was coming to Earth. "Fall back," she ordered. "Draw it away from the colonies." The fleet engaged in a risky retreat, luring the hive ship toward an uninhabited system on the edge of human space. Every second, Myra's mind raced. The hive ship could destroy planets. The Korth Dominion had come prepared, and Earth was vulnerable. During the retreat, the fleet fought hard. Deathworlder ingenuity shone in every move. Engineers modified shields mid-battle, using raw power from the ship's core to reinforce weak points. Fighter pilots executed daring maneuvers, dodging energy beams by inches. Humans adapted as fast as the Korth attacked, striking back with deadly efficiency. Still, the hive ship was relentless. Its smaller scouts regrouped, coordinating attacks with eerie precision. The fleet suffered heavy losses, and Mira watched friends and comrades die in seconds. She gritted her teeth, refusing to let fear take over. Humans had survived ice storms that froze continents, predators that could rip a person apart, and wars that threatened extinction. They could survive this too. Finally, the fleet reached the uninhabited system. Mira ordered a full assault, concentrating all firepower on the hive ship's forward nodes. Explosions rocked the void as human missiles and Varnak energy weapons struck together. For a moment, it seemed as if they might succeed. Then the hive ship reacted. It pulsed violently, sending shockwaves through space that tore smaller vessels apart. The fleet was thrown back, hulls cracking and fires spreading. Mira realized they had underestimated it. This was not just a ship, it was a living weapon, capable of learning and adapting. Amid the chaos, the Varnak scientists shouted through comms. "Captain, its core is exposed. If you can reach it, you can disable the hive." Myra's eyes narrowed. She knew the risk. The path to the core was a gauntlet of energy beams, debris, and smaller Korth vessels. But humanity thrived on impossible challenges. "Prepare a strike team," she ordered. "We hit the core. No excuses." The fleet rallied, a mixture of courage and desperation driving them. Pilots knew most would not survive, but the fate of Earth depended on it. Mira took her personal ship and led the strike group, weaving through fire and chaos with perfect timing. Every maneuver, every shot, every decision could mean life or death. As they approached the hive ship, Mira felt something she had never felt before. Fear, yes, but also exhilaration. The Deathworlders were alive in this moment, stronger and faster because of the danger. They were meant to fight. They were meant to survive. And in the silent darkness of space, the hive ship pulsed again, as if aware of their approach. Mira whispered to herself, "This ends today. For Earth. For humanity." The strike team plunged into the heart of the hive, and the void lit up with fire, energy, and determination. The first real battle against the Korth Dominion had begun. The strike team plunged deeper into the hive ship, weaving between pulsing walls that seemed alive, breathing, and watching. Myra's hands gripped the controls tightly as her ship dodged sudden spikes of energy and walls that shifted like sinews. The hive was not just a ship, it was a living fortress, and it seemed to anticipate every move. "Captain," one of her pilots shouted through comms, voice shaking. This isn't just a ship. It's thinking. Every maneuver we make, it reacts instantly." Myra's eyes narrowed. That was exactly what the Varnak had warned them about. "Keep moving," she said. "We find the core, or none of us make it out alive." As they approached the heart of the hive, strange visions began to flicker on the viewing screens. Memories. Echoes. Mira didn't know. Faces of people long gone, landscapes burning, stars dying, images flashed faster than the eye could follow. The hive ship was not just alive, it fed on fear and memories. It learned from them. Suddenly, the walls of the hive pulsed violently, and a voice echoed through the comms. not through sound, but directly into their minds. It was cold, mechanical, and ancient. We remember Deathworlders. We failed to break you once. We will not fail again. Myra's blood ran cold. The hive ship, or something controlling it, knew about humanity. Knew their history, their battles, their strength. Whoever they were, they had already fought the Deathworlders, and survived. One of the Varnak scientists, riding a support ship alongside Mira, spoke frantically. It is called the Mind Core. The hive ship is its body. It controls everything, the core, the weapons, the ships. It learns, adapts, and destroys. Mira gritted her teeth. Humans had survived storms, predators, extinction-level events, and wars, but this was different. This was intelligence without mercy, a predator that had no flesh to bleed, no heart to stop. And it knew them. Focus on the core, she barked. Whatever it knows, we'll survive it. The strike team pushed forward, dodging streams of energy and collapsing corridors. Fires and sparks danced along the metallic walls, making the ship look like a living nightmare. Human ingenuity shone brightly. Pilots used precise calculations to navigate collapsing paths, engineers hacked alien systems to disable traps, and the Varnak provided guidance, showing weak points no human eye could see. They finally reached the central chamber. The Mind Core floated there, a massive, pulsing orb of black and silver energy. It radiated a presence so powerful that Mira felt her mind hum under its weight. This was not a machine. This was something ancient, alien, and terrifyingly aware. The core spoke again, its voice echoing in their minds, twisting words into something personal. Mira felt a presence in her thoughts, whispering, "You cannot stop me. Your brother tried once, failed, and so will you." Her stomach dropped. Her younger brother, a pilot lost during early Earth core skirmishes, flashed in her memory. The core was using it against her, trying to break her resolve. Mira clenched her fists. Humanity had faced monsters, both alien and human, and still they fought. "No," she whispered to herself. "I will not let you control me." She ordered her strike team to attack. Human missiles, Varnak energy beams, everything fired in perfect synchronization. The Mind Core pulsed, absorbing, adapting, and redirecting attacks, but every pulse also left tiny cracks in its energy shell. One of the Varnak shouted, "It cannot maintain coherence for long. Strike now." Mira didn't hesitate. She guided the team into a narrow opening that led directly to the core. Every second counted. Every mistake could be fatal. Ships weaved between energy streams and debris, firing as they went. The core screamed in the void, not a sound humans could hear, but a mental shockwave that rattled nerves and hearts alike. Finally, they reached a vulnerable node. Myra's missiles hit simultaneously with Varnak energy blasts, and the Mind Core pulsed violently, then split with a soundless explosion that shook the hive from end to end. Energy cascaded across the chamber, walls twisted, and smaller core vessels erupted into fire and metal. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the hive ship began to collapse from within, like a dying star imploding. Myra's strike team barely escaped the crumbling corridors. As they emerged into open space, the hive ship's remnants fell into the void, pieces burning, breaking apart, leaving nothing but floating debris. Mira floated in her ship, staring at the ruins, breathing heavily. Humanity had survived, but at a cost. Many ships were gone, and the Varnak had sacrificed their lives to guide them. Myra's calm crackled. "Captain, the main Korth fleet. It's receiving the signal. They know we destroyed the Mind Core. They will come faster now." Mira clenched her jaw. Humanity had fought back, adapted, and survived. They were Deathworlders, survivors of impossible worlds. And they would face whatever came next with brutal precision. She looked at the stars, still calm, still ready. Somewhere in the void, the Korth awaited, but Mira smiled grimly. "Let them come," she whispered. "They will learn what Deathworlders can do." The stars were quiet for a moment, but only a moment. Somewhere beyond, The pulse of the galaxy hinted at the horrors yet to arrive. And Captain Mira Hayes knew, with absolute certainty, that this war had only just begun. The destruction of the Mind Core had given humanity a brief victory, but there was no time to celebrate. Earth's orbital defenses were busy repairing themselves, fleets were replenishing, and the Varnak losses weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Mira paced the bridge of her flagship, the Dauntless, staring at the holographic maps of the Korth Dominion. The enemy was regrouping. "They're faster than we expected," said Lieutenant Samir Cho, his voice tight. "The Korth fleet is converging toward the Sol system again. We estimate full arrival in 6 hours." Myra's jaw tightened. 6 hours wasn't enough. Not to rebuild, not to prepare, not to protect millions of lives. Humanity had survived Deathworld, but now they faced a predator unlike anything on Earth. "We need something bigger," she said, her voice steady, but carrying the weight of command. "Something that can hit them before they reach Earth." The room went silent. Engineers, tacticians, and scientists exchanged nervous glances. "Captain," said Dr. Kalin, a Varnak scientist still alive after the hive ship battle, "there is a weapon. One that can pierce the hive ship's defenses and reach the Mind Core itself. But it's incomplete. It requires immense energy, precision, and sacrifice." Mira leaned forward. "Tell me everything." The weapon was called the Eclipse Lance. A planetary-scale cannon capable of firing concentrated energy across space, powerful enough to penetrate the core of a hive ship, or a planet-consuming Korth vessel. The problem: the weapon was unfinished, and testing it could be fatal. Only a Deathworlder would dare attempt such a thing. Myra's mind raced. Humanity had always survived against impossible odds, and the Deathworlders thrived on risk. "Prepare it," she said. "We fire the Eclipse Lance at the first Korth ship we detect. No hesitation." 4 hours, scientists and engineers worked frantically, adapting Varnak technology to human systems. Energy conduits were rerouted, shields reinforced, and targeting arrays synchronized with the orbital defense grid. Mira walked among them, offering encouragement and strategy, every moment aware that failure could mean annihilation. But as the weapon neared readiness, strange signals began appearing across the fleet. Human ships reported sudden malfunctions, shields flickering, communications disrupted. Myra's calm officer looked pale. "It's sabotage," he said quietly. "Some systems are being overridden. Whoever did this knew exactly what to hit." Myra's heart sank. The Korth were clever, but this felt personal. And then it hit her: sleeper agents. Infiltrators hidden among humans, infected or controlled by the hive ship's Mind Core, trying to stop the Eclipse Lance before it could fire. She barked orders. "Lock down the systems. Identify anomalies. Anyone who interferes will be removed." The crew worked tirelessly, tracking the subtle signs of sabotage. Pilots and engineers sacrificed sleep, fighting not only the enemy in space but also the enemy inside their own ranks. Mira coordinated attacks, defended the weapon, and made sure the team stayed alive long enough to fire the Eclipse Lance. Finally, the moment came. The weapon powered up. The hum of the Eclipse Lance filled the atmosphere of the orbital station, growing louder, vibrating through metal floors and walls. It was alive, dangerous, unstoppable. The energy beam arced across space, reaching toward the coordinates of the incoming hive ship scouts. Then, a warning flashed. Something inside the weapon screamed, not physically, but in a frequency that rattled the human mind. The sabotage had left traces, and the weapon's energy was unstable. Mira stared at the readouts, heart pounding. "Fire anyway," she ordered. "We don't have a choice." The Eclipse Lance discharged. A brilliant beam of light shot through the void, cutting across the distance to the first Korth vessel. It struck with incredible force, ripping through armor, hull, and internal systems. The Korth ship exploded in a blinding burst, fragments scattering like stars across space. For a moment, the fleet cheered. Humanity had struck back with brutal accuracy. The Deathworlders had turned the tables. But the celebration was short-lived. Another energy pulse hit the weapon. This time, it wasn't sabotage, it was the mind core. It spoke directly into Myra's mind again. You cannot stop me. You will fail. All you hold dear will burn. The words were accompanied by a shockwave that knocked several ships off course, damaging parts of the fleet. Mira gritted her teeth, ignoring the mental assault. We adapt, she whispered. We survive. The Eclipse Lance had proven its power, but the Korth Dominion would respond. Their main fleet was still coming, larger and more dangerous than any human vessel. The Mind Core would not give up, and the stakes had grown higher. Humanity had fought the first battle, and survived, but the war was far from over. Mira looked at the stars, at the approaching enemy, and felt the familiar pulse of Deathworlder determination. They were survivors, fighters, killers when needed. And now, they had a weapon powerful enough to challenge the hive ship and its dark intelligence. Her voice was calm, but unyielding. Prepare for full engagement. Whatever they send, we will meet it head-on. Deathworlders never run. We fight. And we win. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the coming storm. Humanity had fired the first shot, but the battle for survival and vengeance was only beginning. The void of space ahead was dark and silent, but Mira knew better. The calm before a storm had never been more dangerous. Her fleet, battered but alive after firing the Eclipse Lance, moved toward the coordinates of the Korth Dominion. Every sensor, every ship, every pilot was on edge. They knew the enemy awaited, larger, smarter, and deadlier than anything they had faced before. Captain, sensors detect multiple hive ships, Lieutenant Samir Cho reported. At least 6, and smaller Korth vessels are forming a blockade ahead. Myra's jaw tightened. 6 hive ships. Each one a living fortress, capable of consuming entire planets. And yet, they had to fight. Retreat was not an option. Humanity's colonies and Earth itself were at stake. Maintain formation, she ordered. Keep the Varnak coordinates for weak points active. Fire only when targets are confirmed. No mistakes. The first clash came suddenly. Korth vessels emerged from the darkness like shadows, firing energy beams that tore through the fleet. Explosions erupted as human ships returned fire, dodging and weaving in precise formations. Mira led the charge personally, weaving her flagship through enemy fire, striking at weak points identified by the surviving Varnak data. It was chaos and strategy combined. Human ingenuity met alien precision. Every hit the Korth made revealed a flaw. Every strike humanity delivered forced the hive to adapt, but Myra's fleet was faster, smarter, and relentless. They were Deathworlders. They were survivors. Still, the hive ships were overwhelming. Their size, energy output, and intelligence made every engagement deadly. Ships were lost by the dozen, and Mira saw comrades, friends who had trained with her for years, obliterated in seconds. The pain was sharp, but she pressed on. Humanity had survived worse. They would survive this. During the battle, a massive pulse hit the fleet. Systems flickered, shields weakened, and some vessels were thrown off course. Mira recognized it immediately. The Mind Core. It had not been destroyed. Somehow, it still lived, controlling the hive ships from afar. Worse, it was adapting to the Eclipse Lance. We can't keep hitting them like this, shouted one of her officers. They're learning too fast. Myra's eyes narrowed. Then we adapt faster. She ordered a new formation, using Deathworlder tactics of unpredictability. Ships split, feigned retreats, and struck from angles the hive did not anticipate. Missiles and energy beams tore through the enemy, but the Mind Core countered, sending shockwaves that disabled parts of the fleet. Amid the chaos, Mira noticed something horrifying. The core was communicating, not with ships, but with the minds of her pilots. Images flashed in their heads, showing loved ones in danger, past losses, and fears amplified. Some faltered. Some panicked. Myra's voice cut through the comms like steel. Focus. You are Deathworlders. We fight. We survive. Do not let it control you. Her words steadied the fleet. Slowly, they regained cohesion. The mind core could manipulate, but it could not break the will of those hardened by Deathworld. As the battle raged, Mira received a message from the last surviving Varnak scientist. Captain, there is a way to disrupt the Hive Core's neural network. But it will require sacrificing several ships to deliver a concentrated pulse directly into the hive. You will have to lead it. Myra's heart clenched. Every ship counted. Every life mattered. But humanity had survived impossible odds before. Do it, she said firmly. We strike now, or we all die trying. The fleet formed a spear, guiding energy through the wreckage of destroyed Korth ships, concentrating power on the Hive core. Myra's flagship led the charge, weaving through energy fields, debris, and enemy fire. Missiles struck at precise intervals, disrupting the Hive's connections. Energy beams from every surviving ship combined, forming a blazing spear of light aimed at the Hive core. The Hive shrieked, not a sound humans could hear, but a wave of mental anguish that shook the fleet. Ships burned. Some exploded mid-flight. The mind core fought back, twisting reality inside the minds of those who dared approach. Mira felt a whisper in her thoughts. You cannot survive. You will fail. All you love will burn. She gritted her teeth. We will survive. We always survive. With perfect timing, the pulse hit the Hive core. Energy cascaded across the ship, tearing neural links, collapsing corridors, and severing connections to the smaller Korth vessels. The Hive shuddered and erupted, blackened fragments scattering into space. One by one, the Korth ships fell, their control broken. Myra's fleet regrouped, battered but victorious. The mind core was not gone entirely, but its power was fractured. Humanity had struck back with brutal precision, proving once again why they were called Deathworlders. She looked at the stars ahead, knowing the war was not over. The Hive may rise again. The Korth Dominion would return. But for now, humanity had won a decisive victory. The blood, the sacrifice, and the courage of her fleet had paid off. Mira spoke quietly, almost to herself. We fight. We survive. And we will strike again if they return. We are Deathworlders. We endure. We conquer. The stars were silent once more, but Mira knew the galaxy was watching. Somewhere out there, the Korth awaited, planning their next move. Humanity had proven they could adapt, they could fight, and they could survive. But the final confrontation with the mind core loomed closer than ever. And Captain Mira Hayes, standing on the bridge of the Dauntless, knew the hardest battle was yet to come. The void of space was quiet, but not for long. Myra's fleet, battered and weary, regrouped after the fierce battle against the Korth Dominion and the shattered Hive core. Systems were repaired, ships refueled, and minds steeled for the final confrontation. They knew the mind core still existed, fractured but alive, and it would not rest until humanity was destroyed. Captain, Lieutenant Cho reported, scans indicate the core is consolidating in a dark region beyond the Perseus expanse. Multiple Hive ships are converging there. If it survives, it will rebuild stronger than ever. Myra's jaw tightened. Then that ends today. We go to its heart and finish this. The fleet jumped into the dark region. Stars twisted and shimmered around them as if the mind core itself were bending space. Energy pulsed unpredictably, and time seemed to stretch. Mira knew this was its domain. The Hive's neural network extended far beyond the ships, feeding on fear, memory, and thought. The fleet moved cautiously, every sensor alive, every pilot tense. Then, without warning, Hive ships erupted from the shadows, their organic hulls shimmering with energy. The mind core had consolidated power and now controlled every vessel directly. Engage! Mira shouted. Deathworlders, show them what we are. The battle was total chaos. Energy beams cut through the void, explosions lit up the darkness, and debris spun in deadly arcs. The mind core sent visions into the minds of Mira and her crew. Memories of loved ones, past failures, fears, but the Deathworlders had learned. They focused, adapting faster than the Hive expected. Mira led a daring maneuver. She split her fleet into multiple squads, each striking from different angles. Human ingenuity shone brightly. Pilots dodged impossible attacks, engineers adapted weapons mid-flight, and the surviving Varnak offered crucial guidance. For every hive vessel destroyed, the Mind Core tried to retaliate, but humanity refused to falter. Finally, they reached the core itself. It floated in space, massive, pulsing, and intelligent. Myra's ship hovered near a weak point identified by the Varnak. The Eclipse lance was ready, charged with immense energy. Its beam, combined with the coordinated strike of every human vessel, was the last hope. "Fire on my mark," Mira ordered. Her hands flew over the controls, heart pounding. Every second counted. Every mistake could mean the destruction of the fleet, the colonies, and Earth itself. The Eclipse lance discharged, a blinding spear of pure energy piercing the core's heart. The hive screamed, not a sound humans could hear, but a wave of psychic fury that rattled every ship. Energy cascaded through its neural network, tearing connections, severing control, and sending smaller hive ships spiraling into destruction. The Mind Core fought back, projecting illusions directly into Myra's mind. She saw her dead brother, her lost comrades, even visions of humanity failing. "You cannot win," it whispered. "Everything you love will burn." Mira gritted her teeth. "We endure. We survive. And we strike back." With a final burst of will and strategy, Mira guided the fleet to deliver a concentrated pulse directly into the core. The explosion was silent but complete. The hive fractured, its blackened fragments drifting into the void, powerless, lifeless. The Mind Core was finished. Silence returned to space. The fleet regrouped, battered but victorious. Mira stared at the debris, feeling the weight of sacrifice. Thousands of ships destroyed, countless lives lost, but humanity had survived. They had fought an enemy that devoured stars, adapted to impossible threats, and still they had won. "Status report," Mira said, voice steady despite exhaustion. "All hive activity ceased, Captain," Cho reported. "The Korth fleet is destroyed. The Mind Core is gone." Mira exhaled slowly, relief mixing with sorrow. Humanity had done the impossible. The Deathworlders had answered an alien SOS, struck back with brutal accuracy, and survived a force no other species could have endured. As the fleet began the long journey home, Mira allowed herself a moment of quiet. The stars stretched endlessly before her, calm once again. But in the distance, a faint pulse appeared on the sensors, a signal, broken and trembling, yet unmistakable. "They're calling again," Mira whispered, almost to herself. "Another SOS. Someone needs help." Her crew looked to her. She smiled grimly. "Then we go," she said. "We fight. We survive. And we protect those who cannot defend themselves. We are Deathworlders." The fleet jumped into the void, moving toward the unknown. Humanity had won this battle, but the galaxy was vast, full of danger, and full of life worth saving. The Deathworlders would endure, adapt, and strike back with brutal precision whenever needed. And somewhere among the stars, a new hope had begun, one born from courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding spirit of those who had survived the impossible. The universe had learned a lesson that night. Never underestimate the Deathworlders.